As part of the statutory notification requirements, each applicant was required to post a sign on the property and file a statutory declaration confirming the sign posting. This declaration must be today before we can hear the application. Without it, I may have to adjourn the application and administer an oath if necessary. I understand that we do not have any statutory declarations, therefore I will need to administer an oath to each applicant prior to their submission. The committee may ask for a brief presentation of the application, followed by questions from members and submissions from the public. Please address your comments to the chair, starting with the name and spelling it if necessary, and your municipal address for the record. The committee limits presentations to 5 minutes. Any exceptions will be at the chair's discretion. We'll now proceed with this hearing. Are there any declarations of interest from panel members? Mr. Lewis?
Nope.
Mr. Revort?
None, thank you.
Ms. Chandler?
None.
Mr. Otto?
None.
I don't believe we have any minutes of the last public hearing to adopt. Now we will hear applications scheduled for this hearing, and I'll first deal, with items that may be adjourned. Is there anyone who wishes to request an adjournment for one of the applications scheduled for this hearing? I believe application number 4 is looking for an adjournment. And application number 4, just a moment. The agent on file is Mr. Brooks. Is Mr. Brooks available?
Try again. Yes, he is.
Mr. Brooks, are you looking for an adjournment?
Yes, we are.
Okay. What we'd like to do then is I'll ask for, I believe it's sine die, Mr. Walker, is that correct? The adjournment would be sine die?
We cannot hear.
There you go. Thank you. Do you agree with that, Mr. Walker?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. So the department is requesting adjournment sine die so that the applicant can prepare and submit the EIS required so that the staff can review it to determine if the requested severances are appropriate.
Thank you very much. Mr. Brooks, are you in agreement?
Yes, Mr. Mackey is most uncomfortable with this digital format, feels disadvantaged, prefers tete-a-tete meeting when the health emergency is lifted by the Premier. Thus, he supports staff's recommendation to defer.
Very good. I'll now ask the panel if they agree with adjourning this application sine die. All in favor? Mr. Lewis?
Agreed.
Okay. Mr. Revort?
Agreed.
Mr. Otto?
Agreed.
So your application has now been adjourned sine die, Mr. Brooks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now I'll move on to application number 2. Just give me a second to find it here. This application is for a 112 Fall Down Lane. Is there Mr. Gilles Gorbet here?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
are we not addressing agenda item number 1 first?
Yeah, you're right. I just skipped over that thinking number was number 2. Thank you very much, Mr. Report. I'm just trying to get my computer to respond here. Yes, the first item on our agenda is having to do with 337 West Ridge Drive. Minor variances to permit reduced easterly corner side yard and rear yard setbacks. Is Mr. Drew Mason here?
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Mason, I believe there is not a statutory declaration on file at the present time, so I will have to administer an oath.
Okay.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided by the committee was posted at the property which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing as instructed and was clearly visible and legible during that time?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Thank you. We will now proceed with the hearing on application number 1. Could you give us a brief description, Mr. Sir?
Yeah, absolutely. So the applicant is asking for variances from the corner yard setback as well as the rear yard setback for the purposes of building a shed on the eastmost portion of the property, and a shed off of the back of the northmost portion of the property. The current lot is otherwise unlandscaped for the most part. They are intending to install a pool in that area. The proposed shed functions as storage for the pool equipment, as well as additional storage for landscaping, etc. The proposed 3-season porch that's being added onto the back it's a recreational use. It's there to be outside. It also provides a clear sight line to the pool, which otherwise wouldn't be there. The variances requested are in the corner yard setback from 4.5 to the 1.38 at the closest corner to the property, and the rear yard setback, we'd be looking for a variance from the rear yard setback from 9 meters to the 5.59 meters in order to accommodate the northeastern corner of the screen porch in order to meet the requirements. You'll notice on the images the screen porch and the shed are both designed to be low profile. The roof structure is also a low sloped roof to reduce the overall height. And the neighbors on both the north side and the westmost side of the property have been notified and have no concerns with the property. And there will be, in addition to these two sheds, there will be a perimeter fence installed around the property, both for the purposes of the pool, but also to help with overlook on the adjacent properties. If there are any questions regarding this, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Mason. Ms. Turkington, do you have any comments?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. The Planning Department has had an opportunity to review the proposed minor variances and are satisfied that the variances meet the 4 tests as required under the Planning Act and have no concerns.
Thank you, Ms. Turkington. Does the Conservation Partners have any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, at this time, the Conservation Authority does not have any comments regarding the application.
Thank you very much. Now I'll ask the panel if they have any comments. Ms. Chandler, do you have any comments?
I am just, the shed in the side yard, it's going to be blocked more or less by a fence, but in looking at the sheet that we have up, sheet number 1, how is that fence working with your site triangle?
So we did pass this through the building department. They didn't seem to have any concerns with where that fence is located. The fence can also be brought back to be right against the shed if the committee so chooses that to be the case. There were no concerns raised, but we're happy to make adjustments.
I'm only asking because variances are tied to the plans and it locates your shed in that particular spot. And if the fence has to be pushed back around, it's basically going right against the side of the shed.
Yes, yeah, we're aware.
Because it would surprise me that you could put a fence in a site triangle, because that's kind of the point.
Yes, I completely understand that. The lot itself is rather large and goes actually beyond the property lines there, but we're happy to make accommodations. No decision has been made on the fence yet, so.
Mr. Lewis, any comments? Got to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. No, I think it looks like a good project. I know the area quite well, and I have no problem with the fence either, wherever it goes. Thank you.
Any comments, Mr. Otto?
No, I'm fine with the proposal. Thank you.
Mr. Vervoort?
I have no questions and I'm fine with the proposal as well.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask the panel now to approve this application since there is no objections from the panel. All in favor?
Aye.
Your motion is approved, Mr. Mason, or your application is approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now we'll move on to application number 2 for 112 Fall Down Lane. This is a permission to expand a non-conforming use to allow the modifications to the existing roof pitch in order to address ongoing maintenance and repair. Mr. Corbet, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Welcome.
Hi. Oh, good morning.
Would you please spell your name and address, please?
Gilles Gobeil, Gilles, G-I-L-L-E-S, Gobeil, G-O-B-E-I-L.
And your address, sir?
My for the project is 112 Fall Down Lane.
Okay. Could you give us a brief description of what you'd like to do there?
Basically, it's a storage yard. The front of the building is a flat roof. The rear portion is pitched. The front is flat roof, and there's constantly water and damage and leaking and repairs that need to be done. So the owner would like to add a pitched roof to it to continue the pitch from front to back or back to front.
Thank you. Mr. Walker, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff has reviewed the proposal and has no concerns with it. The department is of the opinion that the request is appropriate.
Thank you very much. Since there doesn't seem to be any issues with the Conservation Authority, I'd like to ask the panel for any comments. Mr. Lewis?
No comments. Looks good.
Thank you. Mr. Otto?
No comments. Looks good to me too.
Mr. Chandler? You have to unmute yourself.
I have no comments.
Thank you. Mr. Vervoort?
Just one quick question for Mr. Gorbey. So the footprint of the building isn't being altered at all, is it?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
There's no alteration to the footprint of the building.
No, it's just we're just adding the roof. Nothing's being changed.
Okay, thank you. I have no questions, no concerns with this application.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask the panel now to vote on this application to approve this application. All in favor?
Aye.
Your application is approved, Mr. Goulet.
Thank you very much, committee.
You're welcome. We can move on to item number 3. And it is for 3584 Tyburn Court. Mr. Potvin, Mr. Hugoyin, are you there? Mr. Potvin or Ms. Hugoyin, are you there? We'll stand down this application for the time being, and we will move on to application number 4. This application is for 2851 Cowell Road. Oh, we resolved that one, adjourned. So we'll move on to number 5 and 6. The first one for 15 Turtleback Road. Mr. Price, are you there?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. How are you my name is Rod Price. I am the agent on behalf of the application for 15 Turtleback for the submission of consent and minor variance applications to create a new lot at the northwest corner of Turtleback and Bray Crescent. The proposed lots are able to meet all the performance standards of the zoning bylaw, other than the severed being part 2 is short 6 centimeters on lot width. And happy to
Mr. Price,
answer any
before we proceed, I have to administer an oath because there's no.
Oh, that's right. Yep, sorry.
That's okay. So here's the oath. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing, as instructed, and was clearly visible and legible during that time? Do you solemnly swear?
I do.
Great. We've had your brief description.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I jumped ahead there.
That's okay. That's okay. I lost something here. I'd like to ask staff, Mr. Walker, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The department has reviewed the applications and is of the opinion that the request is appropriate and that the 4 tests are met. At this time, staff has no further comments.
Thank you very much. Our conservation partners, do you have any comments with respect to this application?
There are no comments or concerns with this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'd like to ask the panel if they have any comments or questions. Mr. Lewis?
No comments.
Mr. Revort?
No questions, comments, or concerns. Thank you.
Mr. Otto?
No questions or comments. Thank you.
Ms. Chandler?
I have no comments.
Thank you very much. This time we have 2 applications. The first application I'd like to have the panel on is application B08-01-20 and the same application as B-0059. I'd like to ask.
Mr. Chair, my apologies for interrupting. I just wondered if there were any concerns with the conditions proposed for the severance.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Member Van Bert. There's only one question, and that pertains to condition 5 that was outlined in the staff report, in that any local improvement, i.e. water, sewer, would apply, frontage fees would apply to both the severed and the retained parcels. I'm wondering if that should just read to the severed parcel, as the retained is already a lot in existence, so it wouldn't be subject to those fees.
Can I ask Mr. Walker to respond?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in accordance with bylaw number 2019-74, essentially frontage fees are a way for the city to recover costs paid to install sewers and water mains. So when when a property is developed, if the city had to put in the infrastructures that you are connecting to in the ground and you weren't required to connect to it at a time, you would need to repay the city for the portions of the service that fronts your property. And so if it can be proved that that fees were paid for the retained parcel, then fees would not apply. But if you can't prove that the fees were paid, then it would apply to both.
Is that good with you, Mr. Price?
Yeah, I can work with that. The condition is worded that it would be to the satisfaction of the staff anyway. So, if there's any discussions to be had, we can have that offline. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Now I'd like to ask the committee to vote for approval of this application. The application we are voting on is D08-01-20 B-0059. All those in favor of this application?
Aye.
So this application is approved. On to application number D08-02.
Sorry to interrupt. Mr. Potvin has his hand raised.
Sorry, Mr. Potvin.
He has been promoted to a panelist.
Okay, Mr. Potvin, we'll come back to your application after we've completed these last two applications, if that's all right with you. So we'll continue with application number 6. And I'm asking the panel to vote for approval of this application. The application is D08-02-20 A-0064. All those in favor?
Aye.
So you have approval of both applications, Mr. Price. Thank you very much. Now we will proceed to application number 3. Mr. Potvin, are you there? Administrator, is he there?
Yes,
Mr.
he is here.
Are you there, Mr. Potvin? I can see you are in attendance, Mr. Potvin, but I need you to acknowledge that you are there. Coordinator, is there an opportunity to call Mr. Potvin?
Yes, we'll get in touch with him ASAP.
Okay, thanks. We'll wait for a few more minutes. Hello, Mr. Potvin. I see that you have joined us. Can you unmute your microphone? Can you hear us, Mr. Potvin? We cannot hear you. Mr. Potvin? Coordinator, have you able to reach Mr. Potvin by phone?
Mr. Chair, I'm in touch with him by email. I've sent him the telephone numbers to try calling in versus using a microphone. So we're going to give that a try.
Thank you very much. Any update, Madam Coordinator?
Meeting.
Sounds like they're in orbit
Okay.
around Mr. Lewis.
I can hear you.
We can hear you now too. Perfect. Mr. Potvin, I need to administer an oath since the statutory declaration was not posted on the property, or we were not provided with statutory declaration saying that the sign posting was on the property for the prescribed time. I will now administer the oath. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing, as instructed, and was clearly visible and legible during that time? Do you solemnly swear? Mr. Potvin? Hello? I see somebody's trying to call in. Still not hearing you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
should we perhaps proceed with item number 6 and come back to item number 3?
We've already done item number 6, maybe number 7?
Yes, number 7, my mistake, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's what we'll do. So hang in there, Mr. Potvin, if you can try and keep in contact with our coordinator, and we'll hopefully try and bring you back as soon as we're able. Thank you. Now we'll move on to item number 7. This item is having to do with 5210 Piperville Road. Is Mr. Juto with us? Mr. Juto, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you now. Thank you very much. Mr. Juto, can you spell your name and provide your address?
My name is Ron Juto, R-O-N, Juto, J-U-T-E-A-U. The address is 5210 Piperville Road in Carlsbad Springs.
Thank you very much. Since we have not received a statutory declaration from you concerning the sign posting, I need to administer an oath. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing as instructed and was clearly visible and legible during that time? Do you solemnly swear?
I so do solemnly swear.
Thank you. Can you give us a brief description of your application today?
Yes, 5210 Piperville Road is a lot which I severed in 2000. It adjoins my principal residence lot, which I built my principal residence in 1984. The servicing for my principal residence is located on this severed lot, and I wish to realign the hydro so that the hydro poles and most of the wires are located on the principal residence lot, which is adjoining it at 5220 Piperville Road. So I'm requesting an easement over the northeast corner of this severed lot at 5210 Piperville Road.
Thank you, Mr. Gio. Mr. Walker, can I have your comments, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff has reviewed the proposal and has no concerns with it. Staff is of the opinion that the proposed easement is appropriate for its intended use. I would also like to note in staff report, there is a condition at the very end, and staff would like to remove that condition.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Any comments from our conservation partners?
The South Nation Conservation Authority isn't present at this meeting, as far as I can tell.
Doesn't seem to be any, on my summary sheet, I don't believe there are any concerns by the Conservation Authority. Our standard conditions, Mr. Gio, that are applied to this that are not mentioned in the staff's report, one of which is reference plan needs to be filed, as well as evidence that the transfer has been placed on title.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
No problem.
Any comments from staff? Not from staff, excuse me, from the panel, Mr. Lewis?
No problem with the application.
Mr. Vervoort?
No concerns, comments, or questions. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis?
No problems.
Ms. Chandler?
No comments.
Thank you.
And I have no comments. Terry Otto.
Thank you, Terry. I don't see you, so I don't know that you're here.
Yeah.
Now I'd like to ask the panel for approval of this application. All in favor?
Aye.
Your application is approved, Mr. Judo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the panel. Thank you.
Now, moving on to application number 3. Can we hear you, Mr. Putman? Still seems to be muted. Coordinator?
Hi, Mr. Coordinator. I have Mr. Potvin on the phone here. He can hear everything. He's just not able to speak. And we're not too sure what the issue is yet.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll describe, I guess, for Mr. Potvin, before I describe the application, I need to administer an oath, Mr. Potvin. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing, as instructed, and was clearly visible and legible during that time? Do you solemnly swear, Mr. Potvin?
Yes, absolutely, I do.
Thank you very much. So I understand the application is for a minor variance to permit a reduced rear yard setback, and it's proposed to construct a one-story addition at the rear of the existing single-family dwelling.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful. Okay, I could hear you throughout the whole time. I don't know what is wrong, but yes, it is. Would you like me to expand on it, or?
Sure, if you'd like to give a brief description, that's fine.
Okay, so we're the owner of the property requesting permission for a minor variance. And it is related, like you said, to the rear yard setback to erect a one-story addition. And it is to take the place of an existing three-season room that is there now, but we want to make it a more permanent structure. So we're retired, and the building size is 15 by 13. Roughly, and it is, let me see here. The location is in our backyard, and it's the only logical positioning given our house's layout and configuration. We've also looked at the impact for neighbors' properties. There are none. The development doesn't reduce or impact the existing our neighbors. We've all talked to the neighbors, and they're all very happy with the addition. There's no issues, and we're hoping to go ahead with this project, hopefully in 2020, if we get the approval and if everything is on track. We'd like to do that this year.
Thank you, Mr. Potvin. Mr. Walker, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff has reviewed the proposal and has no concerns with it. We are of the opinion that the requested variance is appropriate and that the four tests are met.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Any comments from our conservation partners?
Again, Mr. Chair, this application is within the South Nation Conservation Authority catchment area, but I don't believe they submitted any comments to us or any concerns.
Thank you, Ms. Chandler. Any comments by the panel? Mr. Lewis?
No comments.
Mr. Vervoort?
I just had one question. On the sketch that was filed with the application, it shows proposed addition to property line. I'm just wondering what that means.
Proposed addition to property line. Let me just open that up. Proposed addition to property line. That is essentially the difference between the setback that we're asking, the two lines. Is that what you're referring to?
That's correct.
Is the existing setback and the setback that we're requiring the change to, which is roughly a meter or just under 3 feet.
Okay, that's fine. I was just a bit confused about the wording, that's all, but that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments, Mr. Otto?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Ms. Chandler?
I think I would follow up on Martin saying, I see two setbacks, one of 6.58 and one of 6.47. The request is for 6.47. Could you explain to me again what the 6.58?
that was corrected. I believe with Chris asked that question to Mario Poulain, and I believe that was answered.
Mr. Walker, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So essentially, the way the addition is, the portion that reads 6.58, it is also within the required setback, but if you look at the building, sort of jotted out a bit, and that portion would only be set back 6.47 meters from the lot line. And so the variance is for the closest to the lot line.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Any further comments? I think everybody's had their opportunity. I'd like to ask for approval of this application.
Aye.
Your application is approved, Mr. Potvin.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. There being no further business, I adjourn this meeting of the Committee Adjustment for Panel 3. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.